How's it going? My name is JI. I make videos on the technology in our lives and how we use them to make our lives easier. And today we're going to be talking about two of the most popular wireless mic systems that have been used by a lot of influencers and content creators around the world. Now, about 99% of the people that I know and a lot of the content creators in the space that I follow have been using either the DJI mic or the HOLLYLAND Lark M2. I'm going to be covering both of these mics in my review today. Full disclosure, these companies did not send me these mics. I bought this with my own money and I want to compare them both and give them a fair shot before I decide on which one I want to use as my primary. Right now you can see that I'm using the Lark M2. I have that hooked up. And halfway through this review, I'm gonna switch over to the DJI so that you can see what it sounds like in a closed environment like my studio. I'll also be running a bunch of tests outside. I'll use the wind muff. I'll also use the noise canceling feature on the HOLLYLAND Lark M2 as well. And you'll kind of get an idea of what it's like to be using it in real world situations and out and about. But let's just start with talking about what you get in the box for each of these devices, and I'll compare each of them and tell you what I like and what I dislike. Okay, so first off, let's talk about the DJI mic. Now this mic is actually the mic 1. There is a mic 2 that came out recently, but it's a little bit more expensive. This one is a little bit on the cheaper range. We'll talk about the pricing for each of the units later on, but looking at the DJI, it is a solid piece of kit. I love this type of texture that they use around the case. The case feels solid and it feels like it's not going to break if you drop it. It is quite heavy though, compared to the HOLLYLAND mic. In the box, what we got was a carrying case, a USB-C charging cable. We also have a 3.5mm cable for hooking it up to a DSLR camera. And then we also have two wind muffs that can easily snap on to the mics themselves. And of course, the case that is used to house the two mics, as well as the receiver, and two adapters for using it on an iPhone or an Android phone. We also have magnetic attachments and an additional hot shoe adapter for the camera. The first thing that I notice between the two of them, they both come with battery charging cases. And in the case, you can actually see that they house the transmitters. You can see that there, and the receivers. With the HOLLYLAND, you can see the exact same thing. We have the transmitters and the receivers, but I do like the fact that the HOLLYLAND is a lot smaller than the DJI. The DJI feels solid. It feels quite hefty as well too. And if I drop this, I don't think I would be very scared that it would break. However, that being said, if I want to carry this in a backpack or a carry-on, it's going to add a little bit more weight to it. So just keep that in mind. Now with the HOLLYLAND, it's a lot smaller and it's a lot lighter. Some will say that it feels a lot cheaper, but I don't think that's the case. Pardon the pun. It is actually very, very solid. If I drop this, I don't think that I would break it either. Both of them come with USB-C charging, as you can see on the back of the cases. So that is great. It is future-proof. But in terms of what they house, now that is a different story between the two. With the DJI, you have the ability to house both the transmitters, the receiver, as well as the adapters and the camera hot shoe. With the HOLLYLAND, you don't have as much flexibility in storing all of that stuff. Let me get to what's inside the HOLLYLAND box. Now the HOLLYLAND box has almost the same amount of things. We have the 3.5mm audio cable that you can use to hook up to a camera. We also have two wind muffs and a cloth carrying case to just house everything in there. We do have instructions as well. Same with the DJI, that came with instructions, but who reads that anyway, right? This is actually pretty fun. We have some stickers that you can use to kind of customize the HOLLYLAND mics. So you can see there, they're just circular stickers that you can just attach to the mic itself. It'll look kind of weird if you're going into an interview though, and you're interviewing a high profile person and they see these on your mic. I don't think they would take you very seriously. But apart from that, we also have the transmitters for the HOLLYLAND mics. So it comes with a lightning transmitter that you can plug into your phone, and then also a USB transmitter, one that I'm using right now on the MacBook to record the sound that you're hearing. Let's talk about the differences now that I've told you what's in the box. So the one thing I like about the HOLLYLAND case is that it is lighter and it is smaller, so it's easy to carry. However, the disadvantage to this is that it doesn't carry that much. So the case itself will only house the transmitters as well as the camera receiver. So this big guy right here, that one goes onto a DSLR camera, which you can use to adjust the gain and whatnot. If you're actually talking about the iPhone and the USB-C transmitters, those are left outside of the case, which is an odd choice here. I wish that they allowed a little bit more space to put those transmitters in there, because then you're gonna have to carry everything in this little cloth case, which makes it a little bit messy. It's not a deal breaker at all, but it's just something that I wish the company considered. DJI actually considered this, and they put everything in the case. So I can take just this case, don't have to take all the extra stuff if I don't want to. The wind muffs, all of that kind of stuff, that's just additional, and I probably only need it when I'm outside. Even then, you don't really need the wind muffs, but you'll see in our tests. Yeah, so I like the fact that the DJI case allows you to store everything in there without having to compromise. Okay, let's talk about the next big thing, or I should say small thing, when we're talking about the HOLLYLAND Lark M2. Yeah, these mics are incredibly small. You can see that they're almost the size of a button, and compared to the DJI mics, yes, you have a massive brick here when you're looking at the two side by side. The DJI mic is pretty big, it's cumbersome, and is kind of an eyesore when you put it on somebody's shirt, and especially with the wind muff on. The Lark M2 looks a lot cleaner, and because it magnetically attaches to your shirt, you can put it anywhere you want. Yes, the DJI has the magnet as well too, which you can attach to your shirt. But there's one thing that I don't like about the DJI is because of the weight of the mic, it pulls down on your shirt a lot more. So there's not many areas on your shirt or your clothing that you can place it on without messing up your wardrobe. But again, the HOLLYLAND is a lot lighter, a lot smaller, so it's not going to impede with your wardrobe. Okay, big differences between the DJI and the Lark M2. The Lark M2 has active noise cancellation, where the DJI Mic 1 does not have active noise cancellation. So that's a big consideration if you're thinking about getting one of the two. Now, in terms of battery life, we have 5 hours for each transmitter on the DJI mic and 15 hours total when using the case itself. For the Lark M2, we have 10 hours for each transmitter and 40 hours when using the case. One thing I love about the DJI mic that the Lark M2 does not have is onboard recording. So that means each of these mics have 8 gigs of internal storage that can equate to about 14 hours of recording, where you don't need the receiver hooked up to your camera or your phone. That is specifically a problem for the DJI mic because of one thing. Now for the Lark M2, that's really not a problem because the receiver is not as cumbersome as the DJI's. Let me show you. The DJI receiver is actually pretty big compared to the Lark M2. The Lark M2 is small enough to be able to hook up to a camera and not be in the way. But the great thing about the Lark M2 also is that we have separate receivers for our other devices. We have 3 independent receivers. Now, that's important because with the one receiver that you have in the case, that can hook up to a camera or it can hook up to a computer or any other device, and you can use your mic with that. But if you want to hook up to your phone, all you need to do is plug in this really lightweight and thin, low profile receiver, and you're pretty much good to go. You don't have to use that big bulky one that's in the case. That is not the case for the DJI. Sorry, I promise that's my last pun. Now, why is that really a problem? Well, because when you're hooking it up to a phone, well, you don't want that weight to be there, and it's also very cumbersome to kind of navigate on the phone itself. When you're using a gimbal, weight is very important. Even the slightest bit of weight could throw it off, but this is small enough that the gimbal really doesn't have to be recalibrated. But with this hulking DJI receiver, that's a problem. You see, you have the receiver, and this is the only receiver that you can use when you're hooking it up to any device. So if you're hooking it up to an iPhone, you have to use the included attachment, which slides on like so. and works with the pogo pins on the receiver itself. And when you plug it into the iPhone, it's kind of an eyesore. Yeah, you can interchange between USB-C and Lightning, but you're using the same receiver, which is bulky and very unintuitive to use with it plugged into your phone. You have a display on the receiver itself for the DJI, which you can cycle through some settings. You can change the gain on the mics, you can change the gain on the receiver itself, and you can see the battery charging levels as well as the levels themselves when they're outside and inside the case. There are benefits to having this display, but I think the cons outweigh the pros in this scenario. I'd rather have something more slim and low profile like the Lark M2's receiver, so that it doesn't get in the way when I'm recording. Another huge advantage of the Lark M2 receiver is that you can plug this into your phone and still listen to the audio output on the iPhone itself. So say if you're recording something and you want to hear what it sounds like after the recording, you don't have to unplug the receiver. With the DJI receiver, you do have to unplug it in order to listen to what you just recorded. And that could get annoying after a while. Okay, now we're gonna switch over to the DJI mic for the remainder of this review. Here we are, test, test, test. We have the DJI mic hooked up as well as the HOLLYLAND just in case as a backup. But that's a really great segue actually. The DJI mic, because it has onboard recording, it has a feature where you can use redundancy. So if you're recording on a device, like I have it hooked up to the MacBook right now and recording, it also records on an internal storage in the background. So if the audio is corrupted in any way, you still have that backup. That's a huge feature that I think is worth noting when you're looking at the two devices itself. The HOLLYLAND Lark M2 does not have that feature. The audio format in general for both of these units is 48 kilohertz, 24-bit. So you're getting the same type of quality from both of these units, so I wouldn't really worry about that itself. DJI has been around in the game for quite a long time, so you're really paying a little bit more for the name itself. I don't know if this review will kind of show it, but whenever I hooked up and did some tests on my phone with the DJI and the Lark M2, the Lark M2 was significantly louder at 0 gain, whereas the DJI at 0 gain was a bit quieter. So I had to bump the gain up. I actually bumped the gain up to 7+ for the DJI right now. In the previous part of this review where I'm using the Lark M2, the gain is only set to 0. So we'll see how that kind of sounds with the volume itself. Now, what are we talking price-wise between the two? And this is what it really boils down to for most people. This specific combo of the HOLLYLAND Lark M2 was $139 USD. This combo kit gives you the two mics, the receiver for your camera, as well as the two receivers for a USB-C device or an iPhone. You also get the wind muffs and the cable to hook it up to a camera. And there's one thing I forgot to mention in the unboxing portion, but you do have a magnetic clip that you can use on the HOLLYLAND so that you can attach it to like a collar or anything like that without using the magnet. I do prefer the magnet because you can put it anywhere you want, even on your collar. For the DJI, we have the same type of kit. So we have the two transmitters, the receiver, and the adapters for that receiver itself. We also have the two wind muffs that are included. So you're getting the same amount of items in both of these kits, but which one would you choose? $139 or $249? With the DJI Mic 2, that's $349 USD, so that's significantly more. For that price, I don't know if it would be worth it going with any of the DJI mics because the HOLLYLAND does the exact same type of job, gives you the same type of audio, and it has a lot more perks like the lightweight design, the smaller mic sizes, and the longer range. Range-wise, with the DJI Mic 2, we have 820 feet or 250 meters in range before it starts breaking up. The HOLLYLAND Lark M2 has 1,000 feet of range, which is roughly around 300 meters. Okay, we have the DJI mic with the wind muff on in slightly windy conditions, and I gotta say this receiver is making it so hard to hold my phone. I'm not a fan. This right here is the HOLLYLAND Lark M2 with the wind muff on, so you can see how that sounds in slightly windy conditions. And here we are finally with the wind muff off on the HOLLYLAND Lark M2, so you can see how that sounds like in the same windy conditions. Okay, finally we have the DJI mic with the wind muff off, again, it is almost impossible to hold this phone. I feel like I'm gonna drop it. So I honestly think this would be a deal breaker for me. This receiver is just very, very cumbersome to hold my phone, and it makes it very difficult. All right, this is the Lark M2 with noise cancellation off. So you can actually see that the LED is blue, indicating that noise cancellation is indeed off, and there is a little bit of ambient noise, a little bit of wind that you probably might hear. And I'm going to enable noise cancellation right now. There we go, indicated by the green LED. And this is noise cancellation on the Lark M2. So we're gonna find out how good it actually sounds, if it can actually get rid of all of the ambient noise that you just heard. So let's find out. And this is the indoor test of the HOLLYLAND Lark M2. You can see that it's not pulling down as much on my shirt, so that is a good thing. And it's very light, so it feels like I'm not even wearing a microphone. All right, finally a standard test with the DJI microphone indoors. You can see that it is pulling down slightly on my shirt. That's because it's as heavy as I said it would be. And that could also affect the sound coming from the microphone because the mic is now pointed this way rather than upwards due to its weight. So now, after running the tests, getting the information on pricing, I honestly think that the HOLLYLAND is the one that I would go with because it is significantly cheaper and you're not really sacrificing much compared to the DJI mic. Yeah, you might get the receiver with the LCD screen on it where you can see information at a glance, but again, it's a double-edged sword because it's very cumbersome when you have it plugged into a phone and you're trying to fumble around with it. You don't really have to do much maintenance with the HOLLYLAND mic, but there is a companion app that you can download so that you can get all the firmware updates and you can adjust the gain when it's plugged into your phone. That's really all it allows you to do. So whatever you can do on the DJI receiver's LCD screen, you can pretty much do on the HOLLYLAND via the app. So those are my thoughts on both of these mics. I think I'm going to be using this one as my go-to. It's great for traveling around with, very lightweight and compact. The only disadvantage is having to carry the receivers separately. But again, for $139 USD, you can't go wrong. What do you guys think about these mics and which ones do you prefer? If you have it already, let me know in the comments down below. If you don't have it and you're thinking of getting it, if you have any questions, again, down below in the comments. Now I got the best prices on Amazon as well too, so I've put those links down below. Using those links will just help me make better content for you. My name is JI, thank you for watching, and thank you for kicking it with me.